Okay, my book is called A Most Peculiar Act, and I gave it that name because every chapter starts with an act from a clause from the Aboriginal Ordinances Act of 1918. It's set in World War II in Darwin, and it involves people who lived in the camps, the Indigenous people in the camps, the wards of state, the coloured people, and the bureaucracy like the patrol officers and the protector of Aborigines, people like that. Actually, it's a satire, this book. It's actually a satirical take on things, and so some of the clauses that I've chosen are ones where you needed to get permission to get married to a full-blood person. If you wanted to marry a coloured person or a Chinese or a white person, you had to get permission to be married. If you're a ward of the state, you didn't own your clothes or the blanket that you slept on. The government owned them. And so if you're Indigenous, you couldn't own a firearm. So just really stupid ones. And from there, each chapter, then I've sort of worked around what the clause is. What happens? Okay, what happens is that there's a main character called Sugar, and she is incarcerated in the pound because she's coloured, and it's just the trials and tribulations of this girl virtually, from beginning to end of this story. It's just about her interaction with the people in the camp and the bureaucracy. And then when the bombing happens, with how she escapes. Oh no, some of my family, some of the older people in my family were actually involved or around when that happened back in 1942. Not many left now, but and I just found the stories fascinating. And so, and I also like the stories about the patrol officers, how they would come and they had to control what Indigenous people, they tried to assimilate them. The policy of assimilation was to make black and coloured people into white people, and so it was a bit much of a joke. And so that's the take. I'm just making fun of the bureaucracy that tried to implement that system. I think it definitely has happened. I mean, my family are traditional people still living in their homelands, like in Arnhem Land and on the islands, but they're using guns to kill things now, not spears. And they're using cars or trucks to drive around in now. They don't walk when they go hunting. So, people have been assimilated, wear clothes. They watch the television. So we've been assimilated, whether we liked it or not. So, and I think if you want to sort of to get some of the advantages of what our society is, you need to sort of embrace it and accept some of these things. And I think cultures change. They're always changing anyway. Now it's just it's in a constant state of evolving. I didn't write it that way, but people read it that way. So it wasn't my intent to portray any political issues whatsoever, like taking kids away, having wards of state. It was not my intent to do that. I just wanted to write the story about things that I knew about. But a lot of people perceive it to be a political, there's all these underlying political statements. I write because I love writing, because it's a lot of fun. And some of it's quite funny, and so I do it because it's enjoyable. I don't do it because I actually want to tell people anything. I'm a very selfish writer. I only write for me, and if people want to read the book, that's great. But that's the whole purpose of me sitting down. It's for myself. So I just want to write stories. I just want to write, and there's no intent to, make people believe things or make people see things in another way. I just do it because it's enjoyable. No, I am a writer first, and I am an Aboriginal person second. And I don't write it's only because it's my experience. If I was an Indian person, I'll be writing about, Indian things. It's not specific that I'm choosing that topic, it's just because that's the level of my experience. It's who I am, my family, certain friends. So I have actually, I have put my own personal perspective on things. And you're right, a lot of the stuff that I've used is anecdotal stuff that, or just stories that I've embellished on from what, I've heard family talking about or that. But my own personal stuff's in there. And my characters too. I have a lot of fun, making these characters up of people that I know, and that's a really great way to get revenge too. If you work with some really awful person, so you can put them in this book, and so, but my characters are... sometimes composite, but sometimes they're real people that, I'm just having some fun with. Oh, some might, but they would be too embarrassed to put their hand up and say, "I know that's me." No, they wouldn't. Oh, I have fun with them all. I actually have fun with them all. My first book, I was actually taking the piss out of the missions because no one's written a book about the mission from the black person's point of view in the mission, and so I wrote it from that point of view. And I'm making fun of, the mission, the people living in the mission. I'm making fun of the missionaries. No one gets left out. They all cop it. So. I think that it was an imposition on them because this other culture was imposed on them. I mean, like nowadays, people, this makes me laugh. Nowadays, people are complaining because of Muslims coming into our country in Australia, and they're saying, "Oh, that's not fair. We don't want to have to eat that food, and we don't have to want to, dress like that and speak like that." And I say, "Hey, hang on a minute. What do you think you did to my countrymen a few hundred years ago? We had to eat different food, and we had to, were forced to eat different things and speak another language. So don't you getting all high and mighty." So, I think now they're sort of understanding maybe what it was for, family of mine that had their land and their culture taken. 12 months. Took me 12 months. Yep.